One of the things we do at OSNS is we provide an anxiety series for parents whose children are struggling with anxiety. And what I want to do right here is just give you a little bit of introductory information on what anxiety in children is about. So quite often people will, when we talk about anxiety in children, people will say to me, okay, well, why do we have so many anxious children? Or why do we have so many anxious people? Why is anxiety so in the news? Why are there so many anti-anxiety medications? Well, I certainly don't know the area of adult anxiety very well, but in terms of pediatrics and children, I would say that we've always had kids who struggle with anxiety. It's just that we understand things much better than we used to. And I think our general approach to kids now is, rather than being blameful, oh, well, he's just a bad kid, or he's just a kid who doesn't listen, we're more likely to try to understand what's behind that. So with anxiety, we really have to think about it. We don't necessarily see it easily in children. What we do see are other behaviors, usually behaviors we don't like. So we see things like aggression or just defiance or rigidity. They don't want to do different things. Or we see just a lack of motivation. I don't want to go to basketball. Why don't you want to go to basketball? I hate basketball. Well, why do you hate basketball? Because I hate basketball. So we don't necessarily see it on the face of it as anxiety, but underneath all those behaviors we don't like actually are things like worry and fear and a lack of predictability that is making kids just anxious and uptight about their days. So we have this little guy here, and he's going to be somewhat anxious. And the first thing we have to remember is anxiety is different for different people. Right now, I don't feel anxious, but if I was talking instead to 3,000 people in an auditorium, my anxiety would be high. And I would be having a bit of a physical response to that anxiety. I might be sweaty, I might be, stuttering a lot more than I am. And we don't get to judge who is anxious for what reason and why. So a young child, one child might have no problem in a new situation at a birthday party or in a classroom or at soccer practice, but another child might have giant anxiety about that and fears about that. So everybody is an individual, and we have to be okay with that. And we also have to remember that anxiety leads to a physical response. There is part of our brain, I like to call it our lizard brain, that is old and primordial, and when we are in distress, when something is really bothering us, that part of our brain hijacks all the reasoning. That's why we hear fight or flight, that in a moment of anxiety or fear, we're overtaken and we can't reason. So if a child who's 4 has separation anxiety from separating from their mom, let's say, and their mom's about to leave, even though they've had the experience of mom coming back and having been left before and it ends up being okay, in that moment they're having an anxiety reaction, and it's physical. So we have to first of all, we have to respect that it is a real thing, and then we have to deal with it. So, we can talk about fight or flight, and that's just a way for us to remember that this response that children have when they are worried about something, when their world is not predictable and they're trying to figure it out, or when they're going to go to soccer with a kid who teased them last week, or when they're going to Walmart and they don't like the lighting in Walmart or the smells that they smelled last time in Walmart, that's going to cause anxiety for them. So we have this going on. And then if you think about it, anxiety affects us all in different ways. So where do you feel anxiety on your body? When I get anxious and upset, it's my stomach that goes. I am not hungry. My stomach is in shreds. And that's how I feel worry and fear in my stomach, on my body, because it is a physical response, as we just said. So with kids, when they're worried and anxious, it's really important to help them figure out, where on your body do you feel this? Some people get headaches, some people get very tight shoulders. We all have different physical reactions. So let's figure out where, and that's going to help us identify what's going on. So when you see these behaviors, rigidity or aggression or, meltdowns, let's try to figure out in a teachable moment what your child is actually feeling. Another really important thing to think about is many of our young children don't yet understand time well. And you'll see two types of kids. You'll see the type of kid who is trying to understand it all the time, like, what are we doing now, then, later? But time is a really difficult concept if you think about it. We use these words with kids like, we'll do that soon, or we'll do it later, or in 15 minutes. And really, it means very little to most kids. So it would be like if I took an adult, say you, and I said, I'm taking away your planner, and I'm taking away the calendar in your smartphone, and I'm putting you in a car, and we're going to go do a bunch of things, but you don't really know what they are, you don't know how long they'll take, and you don't know when you're going to get back to your comfort of playing with your Lego on your floor or watching your video. So they don't understand time, and yet we're using time words all the time. And then we wonder why they walk into a situation and they're anxious and uptight, and they clock the kid next to them when the kid brushes them the wrong way, or they just shut down and retreat and refuse to do anything. So they're having a fight or flight reaction to anxiety or fear coming from the fact that they have no idea, that is a terrible clock, but that they have no idea about time. And if you look at the time segment that we taped, you'll see that there are ways to really calm kids down and explain time to them in a way that will help ground them and make them feel more comfortable. So in terms of anxiety in general, I think the takeaway message is that anxiety is different in different kids, and we have to respect that kids get worried. And the best thing we can do is name that worry and help them out. And the best thing that we can all do as a compassionate community is be respectful that different things are going to affect kids different ways. When you see a child having a meltdown at soccer practice, or at the store, grocery store in the lineup, or in the bank, it may not be, it probably isn't. It probably isn't just defiant behavior. It's defiant behavior that is rooted in something that's much more addressable and much more developmental.